Welcome again to It Doesn't Take a Genius, conversation with introspective perspectives and pithy points of view. Here are your hosts, my friends, Max and Marty.
I think that's Mark and Mike.
Yeah, whatever.
Not what's up there. Marshall!
Ramsey! Sorry, I was out of sync there. I was laughing too hard at our stage faces.
Right, our stage face.
But yeah, we're back. And we're very excited because finally, after episode 109, 110, 111, 112, which were all about getting ready to have the crucial conversation, it's time to talk.
Let's talk.
It's time to bring the other person in and into our safe space, our safe zone, and have this crucial conversation. And so we've got 5 steps to the crucial conversation, and I know you can almost hear the audience, both of them going, five things. All right. So it's not as bad as you think. There's only really 3 things you got to do, and then there's 2 of them. We'll just talk about how you do those 3 things. So let's go with three steps of what to do and 2 steps of how to do it.
I think that's very fair. And I'll repeat what I said at the end of last episode, that, this is really about if you've ever felt like you've won the battle but lost the war. This is about having the battle in a way that you win the war, the long-term goals that you're trying to achieve, because you've thought that through, right? With start with the heart, thinking through what you want for them and for yourself and for the relationship. Now it's time to have the conversation in a way where you get to that goal. So.
Oh yeah. We've talked to ourselves quite a bit. Now it's kind of nice to talk to the other person, and we've beat ourselves up a little bit here. If we did the prep, we had to look at, well, how did I contribute to this? And, how have I exaggerated my victimhood, my villainous, my helplessness? So now it's nice to just dive into this. And so the book uses the acronym STATE, S.T.A.T.E. And so S.T.A. is what you're going to do. And then the T.E. is how you go about doing that. So let's dive into this. So we're in our safe space. The ultimate goal is to create a shared pool of meaning to get everybody's stuff on the table. And so the book, the S in STATE, stands for share your facts, not your opinions. All right, but what are the facts that led you to have this particular conversation? And I did this as a workshop not too long ago, and everybody got it immediately. I said, all right, so why would you start with facts versus your opinion or how you feel? And everybody's like, it's harder to argue with facts. If you start with opinions, people are just gonna, there's gonna be rationalization, denial, defensiveness. I mean, it's just all sorts of bad things come up if I start with the story versus the facts.
And I've used an example before. It was just so clear cut. I think I better bring it up here again. But I had a store that did not approach a new manager and say, hey, we've noticed that you are not at your seat at 9 a.m. and we see you on the parking lot on your cell phone quite a bit. What they started with was, hey, people got the impression you're lazy. That was the opening of the conversation. Literally the first line of the conversation was that. And guess what? He eventually was no longer working at that organization. He was completely floored. He had no idea what they were talking about, mainly because they didn't tell him. They didn't share any facts. So if they had started with these observations, right, which are truths, this is what we saw happen. This is what I saw happen. This is what I observed. We're not starting from a foundation that we can build on.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you go into the conversation with, I'm beginning to question your commitment to sparkle motion.
Oh, I see what you did there.
All of a sudden, we got to fight. And so, you see this, right? So the employee's late 3 times in 1 week. And so, you know, the human mind immediately jumps to some negative conclusions.
Right.
You know, they're, you know, just like you said, they're lazy, they don't care, they're not committed. I mean, I could come up with like 30 things that I could, you know, ascertain, you know, based upon these facts.
Right.
And so, but starting with that, because there's a really good chance that the story that I'm making up in my head, as we've talked about, isn't true. Or there's more to it than meets the eye. But
Well,
but the facts lead us into that conversation, and so they're more indisputable. Yeah, you're right. I have been late 3 times this week, or you're right. I haven't turned in those reports, or right. So it's yeah. This is just how it is. It's
yeah.
not good or bad. This is just what we see.
So that's a nice lead into the second letter. You know, we're going to share our facts. We're now going to tell our story.
Mhm.
So again, when I say tell our story, that's kind of another fact, right? That's the fact of here's what conclusion I have come to based on this. Not
Right.
necessarily true, but it's the conclusion I have come to based on this. So, you know, I'm beginning to worry that you have an attendance problem. I'm beginning to think that you know, what was our example from last week that just completely left my head? But I'm going to go ahead and put on the table that this is the conclusion I'm starting to draw. Starting to draw is the key there.
Yeah, I'm starting to, you know, it's, you know, I've been thinking that maybe, right. So I'm not stating it definitively, but yeah, when I see this, here are, you know, I'm just going to share, here's the thoughts that are coming into my mind, and it's not good.
Yeah. So step S was all the things that we see, and step T is all the things we're feeling about that, you know, the story that we're concluding.
Right. I'm going to tell the story, and yeah, this is going to be difficult, you know, and nobody wants to, you know, I've seen you, you know, you know, you've taken a longer lunch break. You're taking an hour and a half lunch break versus 45 minutes or whatever is the schedule. And so, you know, I'm beginning to, you know, think that you're stealing from the company by doing that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, this is where, okay, here's what I saw. Here's my interpretation of it. But the good news is that A in state, S.T.A.E is, I'm going to ask for the other person's path. And so I'm going to ask them to share their point of view. So, you know, a great what question here goes a long way. All right. So what is your perspective on all this? And,
yeah.
and this is the point where I need them to share what it is that's going on, that they see. And I need to know, right, they say there's 2 sides to every argument. In this case, we don't want an argument, but we're having a conversation, and there's 2 sides to it. I need to know what the other side is.
Well, there's 2 sides to every story, right? And that's another good ask line that I've heard is, you know, this is the story that I'm beginning to get, but there's got to be more to the story. So I'd really like to hear your side of what's going on.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. So tell me what I'm missing. Tell me what I'm not seeing here.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just multiple ways. And so that's it, right? That's the 3 things to do: share the facts, tell your story, and then get them to tell their story.
But before we move on to the other 2 letters, I thought it might be a good time to bring up the video that you and I watched of an interview with Adam Grant and Marcus Buckingham. Mm-hmm. And they talked. Adam Grant is a professor, and he had one of his students say to him, "You are a logic bully. Your logic is so airtight that it makes me feel backed into a corner that I just would be foolish to do anything other than the one thing you say, and you're a logic bully." Mm-hmm. And Adam was really trying to take that to heart, right, and say, how do I wrestle with that, Marcus? Like, what, you know, like that there's some probably some truth there, and you know, how do I? And Marcus Buckingham said, well, there's a better way to state that, right? Because are you a logic bully? I don't know. but here's what I observed was this, and this happened. I felt like you were bullying me. Mm-hmm. So there's a great example of, I'm going to share the facts of, this is what happened in the conversation that I had with you, Adam Grant. Now I'm going to tell my story. It felt like I was being bullied, but there's got to be more to the story. So I turn it back over to you and say, what, I'm probably missing something here. What's your perspective? Mm-hmm. And so there you've nicely walked through S.T.A.E in our state acronym, just by slowing down and not making an accusation. You're a logic bully, right? You slow this down, and you're going to get somewhere with this, instead of locking up Adam Grant to the point that he goes on stage at a big conference and interviews a guy and wants to talk through what happened in a conversation from 2 weeks ago or whatever, right? Right. Like that didn't help the young lady. This would have helped the young lady to go there.
Oh, definitely. Well, it leads us right into the next T, which is and how, right? How to do these three things. Yep. And that T is talk tentatively. So you tell your story as a story and not a fact. And so, and as a logic bully, right? I'm probably presenting this is this, and that may not be a fact, but it's the logic that you've come to. Maybe it's the conclusions you've come to. And
I had not really thought about that, but she's actually a little bit being a logic bully, by saying somebody else is a logic bully, right? Like she's at least being a bully, right? She's labeling, name calling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's not a flattering name. Nobody wants to be the bully.
You're a logic stallion. No, logic bully. That's what she said. Yeah.
You're a logic champion. Yeah, that sounds much better than bully. So when you talk tentatively, it's kind of like, the examples we've got, I'm beginning to think from my viewpoint, it makes me wonder. So all of a sudden, I'm not stating it as a definitive,
right.
This is ironclad and the only way it can be seen or thought of. It's there's room for somebody else to share.
Yeah.
So I get the impression that this is going on, right? What's the impression that you get? And so it leaves some space, because at this point we're still trying to get everything into the pool of shared meaning. We're trying to get everything onto the table. And once we've got it on the table, then we can move to the next step. But this is the way in which talking tentatively is the way in which you can get more of the good stuff and more of the other person's perspective.
Well, and you've already sort of brought up the other letter, encourage testing. This is the final E in state. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk tentatively, but we're going to encourage testing. Mm-hmm. And notice humility is a real theme here, right? Like you may have figured out this whole thing, but you're not going to state it that way because A, you might be wrong. There's more to the story. Mm-hmm. And B, you really want this person to engage in the conversation. You want this to be a two-way conversation. So there's a shared pool of meaning that you're both, maybe I know exactly what's going on, but I don't know why, right? You had an example, Mike, of an employee who was late, and there was an assumption that they, just weren't getting up on time. Mm-hmm. Not true.
Right. And they were up on time. There were just other things in their life that the employee hadn't found another way to deal with that were causing them to be late.
Right.
The employee was committed. The employee wanted to do a good job. The employee cared. But from the perspective of the manager, it was you're not a team player. You don't care about our customers. You don't, there's just all these inferences that were drawn that had no basis in what the facts were. But once we discovered what was going on in this employee's life, you go, oh, well, anybody in the same situation would be doing what you're doing. Let's figure out how to change the situation.
Right. Right.
So what's your perspective? One of the things I like in this, they talk about priming. And
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, and I like that, right? Being the devil's advocate kind of thing of,
right.
Like if I were you, I'd be thinking, and then share something. I might be thinking this and then share something. And then that way they can either say yes or refute it.
Yeah.
but you kind of start a conversation from their viewpoint to see if if they join in, they refute it, or and it's perfectly fine for them to go, well, no, that's not what I would be thinking at all. I'm thinking, and then all of a
Oh,
sudden,
great! Please tell me.
Yeah. Tell me, how that's not the scenario, or what could be different.
Yeah, I love that priming the pump, because it's sort of like an escalating thing, right? Like, hey, you haven't said much. You just sort of said fine, but I feel like you're not fine. But can you tell me more about, what you're thinking? And then maybe escalate it a little further, like, well, if I were in your shoes, I might be thinking X, Y, Z. And I think at one point the book even says that you just sort of say, can I take a guess? You're thinking that I'm in here to try to get you fired, or at least strike one on the path to getting you fired, or whatever is the story that you're worried that they might be telling themselves. And just sort of laying it on the table so that they can, grab that and run with it and actually engage in the conversation. Priming the pump is, we're trying to get them talking. We're trying to get some actual shared pool of meaning going here.
Oh yeah. And by priming the pump, you give the impression that I don't know everything.
That's right.
You communicate. Right. I don't know. Here's what I'm guessing.
Yeah.
That you might be thinking, but I'm just guessing. I'm just speculating. Right. I don't know. And invite the other person to lean in and start to clear up, where my speculation is incorrect.
That's it. That's exactly it.
So now, at this point, we've got everything on the table. They've told me their side of the story. That we talked about the facts. Would I opine from those facts? And now they've shared, and so we've got this pool of shared meaning. And the book talks about making sure that you explored the other person's path, and making sure that you've listened, you've pulled out as much of their perspective as possible. And so now we're in the sweet spot of all right, so let's move to action. And so that'll be what we talk about next is the move to action and the follow-up piece. And so I've done a great job. It's felt a little awkward, but we've got everything on the table.
Right.
And so with all the pieces on the table, we can now start to put this puzzle together. When I just had half the pieces, right, I was never going to put this whole puzzle together. And the other person had half the other half of the pieces. So now all the pieces are on the table, and a picture is starting to come together. And that picture ultimately will help us figure out, okay, what do we do next?
And do is exactly where we're going with this. Anybody who has been under the mistaken impression that this has all been just so that we can have a nice talk and finally clear the air and just there won't be as much tension and we'll feel nice again, that's not been the purpose of a crucial conversation, right? The purpose is there are truly high stakes here, and the emotions are high, and we have opposing views, but man, we could have a breakthrough. If we could have this conversation and get past this issue, we'll be able to actually take action and do something where things improve for them or for us or for both of us. So stay tuned for the next episode, because we're going to get into what that looks like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is the good part. Right. Yeah, we did all that prep. We had the conversation. Now let's figure out, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
I like it.
I do too.
Yeah. All right. Well, we know what our announcer's going to do. He's just going to make fun of us. So let's just grin and bear it.
So go ahead and tweet that, or share it any other way you want. As always, there are no rights reserved, no trademarks, no copyrights. Share it if you want to. And join us next time on It Doesn't Take a Genius.
That's good enough.